Hello, and thanks for joining us today on DiCAN's Fleet Street webinar. My name is Lisa Assetti, and I am the Director of Marketing here at DiCAN, and I am your host for today. So thank you everyone for joining us. Our topic today, AI camera systems. What every fleet manager is going to want to know before they make a camera purchase. I think today is a topic that has been top of mind for a lot of folks. The marketplace has really become densely populated with a lot of additions in the camera system world. And when you think about the advantage of having a camera system, yes, many know that in the case of an accident, when the worst happens, you definitely have the evidence on your side having a onboard camera system. But taking that to the next level, having the addition of AI-powered features in your camera system is really something that's becoming a given. It is something that is essential. It is something essential not only for fleet management, but for the whole operator training, the efficiency of operation. It's really become a fundamental in the fleet camera system world. So we are super, super excited today to have with us our special guests, our friends at Smartwitness, and in particular, Tom Koch. He's the Senior Director of Sales at Smartwitness, and he is going to be leading us through the presentation today. And he's going to talk to us a lot about, educating us and really giving us this proper understanding of AI and all the acronyms, right, Tom? ADAS, DSM, the simple truth behind why AI camera systems really matter, and what matters most, what we should know before we buy, how to measure the savings, really give us a sneak peek behind some of the development at Smartwitness by sharing with us a brand new launch product that's just come out. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Tom, and then I'm going to turn over the clicker and I'll have him take us through the presentation. And then I'll be back with you just to wrap things up at the end in about 30 minutes time, and we'll go through an open forum question and answer period. So welcome, Tom. Are you there?
I hope everybody can hear me fine.
Excellent. I can hear you wonderfully. So thank you. Everyone, meet Tom. Tom is the Senior Executive at Smartwitness. He has a tremendous global experience in a very future forward tech world, both on the business and government fleet side. He is a super enthusiastic guy, an expert in telematics, and has a really, really deep understanding of our industry and our marketplace. So we're privileged to have him today on the call. And welcome, Tom. Without further ado, I will let you take over the screen and get started.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. And let me see if I can switch some screens over here and make sure that you're all seeing my screen now.
We are.
All right, great. Well, hey, thanks a lot, Lisa. And I hope this afternoon, the next 30 minutes or so, turns out to be an informative opportunity to learn a little bit about the technology of artificial intelligence, the way the technology is deployed, and really what are the benefits and the differences of artificial intelligence as used in video telematics. And then probably also would be important is just to understand, what do you get if you don't have camera systems installed today? What extras do you get out of putting a camera system inside of your fleet and the challenges that go along with it? And then like Lisa said, we're going to wrap this up with just a very, very quick high-level overview of Smartwitness product that addresses this very unique market space, and then we'll open it up for some questions. So I think the first thing that people want to know all the time is what are the benefits of actually having video inside of your vehicles? I mean, obviously a camera is that undeniable witness evidence. I mean, I think we think of our law enforcement professionals that are out there today that are, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that's a law enforcement officer that's not wearing a body camera. A body cam. And the whole idea of that is to provide that context, that visual that you don't get necessarily without it. It gives you a lot more vision and view to the actual events that have occurred in video and in telematics fleet management. That's real important, especially as it relates to reducing claims. And let's face it, if we operate a fleet, we know we're paying insurance for that fleet. And the whole idea here is to manage the fleet in such a way that we can, optimize our expenses. And, whether it's through tracking idle time or in video's case, it really has to do more with, claims management, et cetera. We also probably want to have access to video footage. You want to be able to look at what's happened in a particular event, and that goes into things like driver scoring and training drivers to be better drivers, et cetera. You want to control the claims and spend. You want to be notified when one of your operators has had an issue. Oftentimes we find that, as I work with insurance carriers, usually the company that files the claim first really controls the situation from a claims perspective. And so that immediate notification of an incident, and then actually having video to support the situation or the evidence of what has transpired, all those are really things that lead to how you manage the liability of the company, how you maintain fraud issues. As Canada has rolled out hours of service laws for operators running, large commercial vehicles, we all have an ELD application. Well, can you also look at who the driver was? Because, we all know there are situations where you might have a couple of drivers that are driving together, and their hours of service might have slipped past, but they're still driving anyway. It's another one of those ways to validate and prevent fraud in the vehicle environment. And then seriously, just plain and simply tracking and monitoring. We all want to know where our vehicles are and what our operators are doing, and et cetera. And when we think about standard telematics versus video, you look at a telematics environment, you get a G sensor reading, you see that John was driving his real nice red truck, and he had an incident, and it was at a particular latitude and longitude, and it was a posted speed limit of 65 miles per hour, and he was doing 53 westbound on an interstate, and it occurred at 5:12 a.m. So you get all the data, you get all that deceleration or velocity chart, so you can see and reenact the scenarios, especially if you're trying to do accident reconstruction. All of that's really great, and it really does bode well in an environment. But what you're missing is why did that accident actually occur? In the telematics environment, you see what happened, but you don't necessarily see why it happened. And what video does is it gives you that why. And let me show you an example of what I mean by that. So in this very unfortunate incident, the driver here was driving his vehicle on an interstate here in the suburbs of Chicago. Early in the morning, you could tell that there was a little bit of snow on the ground, on the shoulder there. Driver is paying attention, two hands on the wheel, not texting, not doing anything else. That individual that spun out in front of that truck driver, in fact, lost their life, and they their estate came after the commercial fleet operator. Obviously, there's this belief that commercial fleets have deep pockets, and if they can go for a settlement, they will go after it. But when you throw video footage like this on the table in a litigation environment, the case is dismissed because the driver was doing what the driver should be doing: driving well, not speeding, not texting, not smoking, not doing any of the things that he or she shouldn't have been doing. And it's just an unfortunate circumstance that person spun out and lost control. And this is what video does. You've all heard the word, the term, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, a video could be worth a heck of a lot more than 1,000 words in an environment like that. Another thing that's interesting is traditional telematics has been around for years. It's been adopted by fleets, but even despite all of that, we continue to see accident rates climbing. In the last 12 years or so, per 100 million miles driven, fatalities and injuries and property damage continues to increase. We all know that distracted driving is increasing. The cost of settlements and legal fees are going up. Like I said before, commercial drivers are presumed guilty, yet it's a known fact that the majority of commercial operators are exonerated when they have proof of what has really happened in that environment. And they can prove that an incident that happened really was not their fault, because professionally, that's what they do, is they drive their vehicles. So more often than not, they actually are not the cause of the accident, but they oftentimes are blamed for the accident. And you see a bunch of other statistics here that are out there. One of the biggest things that's concerning to drivers is 1 out of every 5 commercial drivers will get into some sort of an incident this year. So it's really not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's really more of a matter of when. And what the video does is it provides that near elimination of litigation and reducing the costs and exonerating the driver. The other thing that is a very big myth in the video space is drivers are afraid they're going to be recorded continuously and they're going to be observed by their company continuously. And the reality is to do that is be very, very expensive, because you'd need a live feed continuously to that camera. Technically, the best way to handle this, because no one's going to want to sit and watch that video footage over and over of your driver being a good driver. But what happens is that camera is, from the minute that you start the ignition, starts recording. It stores that video on a local memory stick, but it's when an event occurs that we'll send 10 seconds of video before and 10 seconds of video afterwards. So that way the fleet operator has the ability to see what were the 10 seconds that led up to the incident that it is, and then what happened afterwards. And obviously that speed to getting that information, because it's instantaneous, is what then puts the fleet operator in a very good position to be able to take action, from notifying insurance if necessary, and just having that ability to deal with the individual circumstances, up to and including training the driver. If the driver is not operating the vehicle safely, then you have an opportunity to use this video as proof and a training method and a way to educate your drivers to be better drivers. All right. Another thing that's an issue with us in our space is that video has been identified as eliminating or reducing disputed claims by 98%. And that which is significant when you consider the fact that today the average award, and it's an average, is about $285,000 US dollars per claim paid out. Damages can be significant if there's fatalities involved. It could be in the millions of dollars. And this is where it's really important for that fleet operator to have that vision, that context of what's led up to what happened that led to the event, and then reducing the frequency of the claims, which statistically over the last 10 years has resulted in about a 39% reduction in overall risk. Drivers drive better when they're driving, knowing that there's a camera in their vehicle. They will be easily coached. Good drivers are retained because they're rewarded in many cases for being good drivers, et cetera. So those are the things that happen. And if you have video in your vehicles today, or even if you're considering putting vehicles, it's often understood that by the addition of cameras into the fleet, oftentimes you can go to the insurance carrier and let them know that you've added cameras. In some cases, they will reduce premiums by up to as much as 30%. We have some relationships and some partnerships with insurance carriers where not only will they subsidize the monthly fees of the camera, but also reduce the cost of that insurance policy to the carrier, to the fleet operator, in addition to that. So cameras really do add a different dimension to the fleet environment. And it's oftentimes the cost of the camera and the monthly subscription can easily be paid for just simply by working with an insurance carrier, making them aware that you've got cameras. You might need to work on some sort of a data sharing agreement, which would allow you to be able to share that video directly with that insurance carrier. So those are some of the things that you'd need to be addressed. Some other things that are challenges by fleet managers today are you need to know who's driving when something occurred. In that instance where you have maybe a tandem truck driving crew, and you've got two folks in the cab, again, you want to make sure that for whatever reason, you want to make sure that they've logged in, that they didn't deliberately choose not to. A video inside the cab will actually help you as a fleet operator identify who was driving when something happened. The other thing that videos do is that artificial intelligence specifically does is it can be used to reduce the amount of footage that you have to look at. So if you consider that you have a speeding notification that might trigger a video upload, or a harsh braking environment that might be a trigger to upload, those little tracking devices do frequently send video or generate the demand for a video pull to the cloud, which then you look at. So that way you're looking at what we call false positives. And I'll cover false positives a little bit further here in a minute. But the time spent by a fleet operator can be very, very overwhelming when you have to look at video footage for every single incident, and fine-tuning the point to what you want to see versus don't want to see can be a little challenging. And so this is another place where artificial intelligence really makes a huge difference in your fleet management, your fleet operations. We look at artificial intelligence at Smartwitness in a slightly different way. We look at generating alerts to only when the driver behavior or the situation is different from what norms are. So typical driving experience. And we establish driving norms through artificial intelligence. And we do that in a way that we call high cloud and low edge. And so really what it comes down to is understanding where artificial intelligence makes the most sense to be used. Sometimes it's in the cloud and sometimes it's at the edge. In the cloud is really great when you want to look at that historical perspective of something that's happened in the past. So I'm looking at the situation where an event has occurred and I want the cloud and the AI in the cloud to look at the event and tell me what's happened, and only filter through or discard those events that don't matter, right? So I don't really necessarily care when John Doe is driving his truck and he hits a pothole or goes over a rough railroad crossing and it triggers a G sensor or shock notification. Well, wouldn't it be great to know that that's what they did and you don't have to look at that video footage in order to see that that's what triggered the G sensor? Well, that's what AI in the cloud has the capability of doing. And it doesn't slow things down, but what it does is it eliminates a lot of what we call false positives. And the other thing that's really great about AI in the cloud is you don't have to have an AI camera in order to utilize AI technology. Because at the end of the day, what the camera is really nothing more than a digital sensor. It combined with the tracking device is using computer vision or machine vision to look at and compare situations and scenarios. That rough railroad crossing, for example, artificial intelligence and machine learning would look at a map and say, at this particular latitude and longitude, there is a railroad crossing and it is a rough railroad crossing. So anytime a vehicle goes over that rough railroad crossing again, it won't look at video. It will pull that and it will discard that video, regardless of if that particular trigger is sent off as a G sensor. And the way it does that is it looks at a driving file. So if you hit that G sensor, if you think of a collision, you're going to have that G sensor notification, but that's going to be combined with a rapid deceleration. So there's multiple things and events and scenarios that take place, and the cloud in the servers in the cloud can process that data very quickly and then make some determination as to whether or not that video is worth looking at or not. On the other side of the case, of putting that AI in the edge gives you the ability to look at things in real time and notify the driver in real time that they might have changed lanes too quickly, or the vehicle in front of them is moving and they're not, or they're following too closely, or they're not wearing a safety belt. Those are things that you can do in the edge, and our products do really both. Okay, and AI can be deployed today, whether it's Smartwitness or whether it's any other camera vendor, using some sort of a combination, some in the cloud, some in the edge. It might be all in the cloud and it might be all in the edge. We happen to use a combination of the two. Okay. Next, one of the things that we rolled out in the summertime of last year is what we call AID, artificial intelligence driving events. This is that example of where that railroad crossing or that pothole, I'm looking at what's the driver doing. In this picture here, you see a truck going down a hill. They might be on the brake because they need to be, because the topology of that mapping and that road requires that driver to be applying a little bit of brake. Or maybe they have to put their foot on the gas to accelerate to get onto an interstate. Those scenarios, through our AID cloud-based technology, look at where is the vehicle, what kind of vehicle, what's the scenario, is it a rough railroad crossing, is it an on-ramp, is it a hill, is there a decline in the road, and it discards those events that are not important. And the reality is we reduce the number of false positives by about 10x, and a huge change in the number of times that a fleet manager is literally looking at video of their driver doing nothing more than driving. Okay. Some other technology that's out there is that we offer is we call our AI Tech Pack. This is where you're using a camera inside the cab facing the driver. We all have cell phones that unlock probably using your facial ID. Well, in this AI environment, we can identify who the driver is by doing facial recognition. I can look at the driver. I can see whether or not I've got sunglasses on, a ball cap, I've got a beard today and I shave it tomorrow, I'm wearing a mask, whatever those scenarios are. And it's another way to add that extra technology to ensure that the driver behind the wheel is who it should be, especially in an hours of service environment. Or maybe you've got a motor pool where you've got multiple drivers that drive the vehicle, and you want to know when something happened, who was behind the wheel when that specific thing occurred. And there's ways to do that today with technology, but in the cloud, this is a very easy way to do it with technology at a very low cost, as opposed to putting in, key fobs and scanners and other types of technology that are hardware based. This is all cloud based technology. Another thing that you might be interested in knowing is was my driver distracted? Were they using their cell phone? Were they smoking? Were they using their safety belts? Again, a camera facing inside the cab, you have the ability to look at when an event occurs, what was the driver doing? So I can get distracted driving behavior based on cloud AI technology without having to go out and spend the money to go put in very expensive artificial intelligence cameras in the edge. So the great thing is you can get that technology with or without an AI camera at the edge. Again, going back to this previous slide, that's our cloud environment. The AI at the edge, our tech pack and aid, that's our cloud-based. But let's again move back to and look at edge-based, right? Edge-based technology is where you want that driver to be notified in real time. The camera inside the cab of the vehicle has the ability to look at forward proximity. It's a low speed sort of scenario. I'm pulling into the garage or to a loading dock, and I want to know how close I am to that object in front of me, because I want to make sure that I don't hit it and damage the vehicle, or pull all the way into that parking space. So ADAS functionality, that's assisted driving type of technology, has that forward proximity. Where am I in proximity to the wall? Forward collision, obvious. I'm going to run into somebody. Forward start is the vehicle in front of us is moving. I'm looking at my cell phone. The camera will beep and say, let me know it's time to move. Lane departure, I'm changing lanes. In this particular case, in our case, we talk about crossing a solid line, because if you cross the white line, you're going onto the shoulder. That could be catastrophic. Or if you're crossing the yellow line, it could be that you're going into oncoming traffic, crossing the median, et cetera. And then obviously you want to know whether or not there's a pedestrian in the area. And all of those are things that can be alerted in real time in the cab using an artificial intelligence camera inside the cab. Now we know what driving behavior is, and I say driving versus driver. Driving behavior is that road-facing view. Let's talk about what can we do with AI technology facing the driver. Here I'm looking at fatigue. I'm looking at yawning, prolonged eyelid closure. I'm looking at distraction. I'm looking at whether or not the eyes are off the road for a prolonged period of time. Maybe it's I'm looking across the median at a wreck on the other side, and I'm not paying attention, and I might accidentally hit somebody in front of me. That distraction is alerted. Cameras can do that. Cell phone usage, smoking, eating, drinking, and then obviously I want to know whether or not I'm wearing a safety belt. All of these are technologies, and there are many more that are available in common AI technologies or AI camera systems, and whether they're cloud-based or in the cab giving real-time notification. That technology is out there today. Okay. Smartwitness connected cameras, very specifically, we have our AP1. It's the camera that you all have an opportunity to fill out that survey and and be entered into a drawing to get one of our AP1s. AP1 is an ADAS camera, so it's an AI camera facing the road. So I'm going to see driving behavior. I'll see lane departure warnings. I'll get forward collision, vehicle start alerts, and pedestrian warnings. It's a very simple, easy to install product. Assisted GPS technology, I'll cover it in a little bit further, but ensures accuracy down to 2 meters. And it can function as a telematics device as well. So if you're using a tracking device, maybe a geotab user, you might be using a geotab tracking device. This particular camera today can actually replace that as a third-party telematics device, making it a single SIM. So we talk about a 2-in-1 type of application. All of that is in the AP1. Very simple to install, plug straight away into the OBD. We will have a J-Bus adapter here shortly, but again, super easy installation. Our VP of marketing likes to say a 15-year-old can install it in 15 minutes or less, and he knows because his did. Very easy installation, very simple app that is used for installing. We've talked about the driving behavior. Let's talk about a brand new product we announced on the 2nd of May, and that's our KP2. This now brings in all of that AP1 functionality, but it then brings in driving behavior, or as a driver. What am I doing? So now I'm looking at driver state monitoring, those DSM functions, distraction, fatigue, seat belts, cell phone use, eating, drinking, etc. And once again, in-cab alerting. So I have the ability to notify the fleet manager if I want. Both of these cameras can be completely configured for sensitivity, what you want to alert on, what you don't want to alert on. This too is an exceptionally easy product to install, plug and play. Again, 15-20 minutes of installation. There are a couple of other very unique things here about installing professionally. Many of our customers are union operators, and they don't have that in their contract for their drivers to have their drivers be videoed. The nice thing about the KP2 is the camera can be added later on. A very simple, easy plug and play installation. Both of these cameras provide assisted GPS. This is a situation where you use most video telematics cameras look for 4 satellites. If they don't get visibility line of sight to 4 satellites, with an assisted GPS technology, we'll look at cellular towers and triangulate locations so we can get to that 2-meter accuracy, because especially when you're driving around, large metropolitan areas, is real important that you've got accuracy down to that 2-meter range. Those are the 2 cameras that we have that are AI in the cab. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands we have also some non-AI cameras that are cloud-based. So we are able to look at those videos, analyze those videos, and then look at using that technology on an event basis. We have our CP4S, which is a 4-channel system, can actually use an external monitor. We also have an 8-channel system that can accommodate cameras, including on tractor trailers, etc. Wide variety of other technologies. And then we also have a very simple 2-channel road and driver non-AI camera. This actually is the predecessor to the KP2, which we just released. But this product is still available as an inexpensive non-AI technology or non-AI camera. And as long as you've got a driver-facing product, our AI in the cloud can actually still provide most of that technology as well, just not in-cab alerting. This is a good snapshot overview of our portfolio from the different connected devices, as well as we have a plethora of accessory cameras and in-cab LCD displays to provide driving assistance. So you turn on your right turn signal, that monitor on the cab can actually show your blind spot. So, or a backup camera as an example. There's a wide variety of applications and use cases for all of these things. So I hope that gives you a perspective of AI in the technology that's available today, whether it's from Smartwitness or other providers. And I'd love to take some questions.
Yeah, that's awesome, Tom. Thank you so much. I mean, I did not realize until you just said it today that you actually don't have to have an AI camera to have AI intelligence. You know, the way you explained it about the cloud-based and the edge-based, I mean, that was really powerful. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And also, it was the video right at the top of the presentation. How powerful that proves, as you said, that, you know, a lot of drivers are, I guess, fearful of having that camera, you know, big brother watching. But here, a picture, like you said, tells 1,000 words, and it proves that the driver was doing all the right things driving. You know, so that was very powerful too. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So I am going to just pull up in the chat here a couple of questions. So let's get to this, if you don't mind. Reminder, everyone who's on the call, to post any questions in the chat. You can send it directly to me, that's fine, or you can post it for everyone. But I have a few here that we can get started with. So one is regarding your mention of immediate notifications when an incident occurs. Now, is that like pulled down from, can you pull that data down from a phone? Like, is there an app, or how do you get that immediate access to the event data?
There is an app that you can install on a cell phone or on a tablet.
Okay.
And you would have access to the video footage. We also will be releasing here in the next few weeks another app of our own, that, so if I'm a fleet man, and that app that I was talking about before a second ago is really more for the fleet manager. It's if you're an operator of a fleet and you want to know that a driver of yours was involved in an incident, you can send a text, an email, and a link to a video, and you can actually download and look at the video. There are some incidents where a driver might be involved in an incident, and while they're sitting there and law enforcement is asking them, what happened, the camera systems today, we're going to be releasing an app that will be able to download that video footage straight off the camera to a smartphone, so that the driver will have the ability to show the police officer, here, I've got a video, I've got a camera system in my vehicle, let me show you what happened, and be able to actually give that to the law enforcement officer on site, on scene.
Okay.
And so that is a software application that we will be releasing, like I said, in the next couple of weeks. Okay. And that will apply to both the AP1 and the KP2. Okay. The CP2, the CP4, and CRX would be today notifying the fleet manager, and they would be able to see it on their tablet, but not downloaded straight from the camera.
From the camera. Okay.
That would be coming from the cloud, which the drivers would not have the ability to do, at least not with those non-AI cameras.
Okay. So is there a particular vehicle or size of fleet that's more suited for either the AP1 or the KP2, or is it just more, do fleet managers decide based on what the features are that they want, and where do they want to be driver facing or inside facing? Like how would you recommend they choose which version?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that's the crux of any fleet manager's challenge, is determining what exactly is it that they need and what is it that they want to view. And I should mention, and I didn't, but every one of the cameras that we've talked about here have the ability to have a live stream in as well. So if you're a fleet operator and you want to be able to go and look inside the cab at any time, or look at the road or at the back, you have the ability with any one of our camera systems. I didn't mention that in the presentation, but I think it's important. But I think that's really the question is what does the fleet operator want to see? What's important? Obviously, road is very important. If you're in the situation where you're trying to coach drivers, there is a driver shortage here in North America, clearly. Retaining good drivers is a challenge, and some fleet operators and drivers don't like the concept of having a video on them all the time because they're worried about privacy, and so that flexibility of the technology is important, but also knowing that you've got future-proof opportunities to go forward. And then, if you're driving a large vehicle and there are blind spots associated with it, side cameras, blind side cameras, backup cameras, those are all driver aids, in addition to being able to, provide visibility and manage liability. I'll give you an example, refuse removal. We are on many refuse removal trucks. So you can see when there's somebody standing by the bay when you're going to pick up that dumpster. You want to have that vision to where people are, because liability plays a big factor here. And if it comes down to is what would help reduce your risk and your liability, and video can be applied in a wide variety of ranges. True driving, forward-looking, will give you that perspective of what that driver did in front of you. But driver behavior is also a very key component, especially in this day and age of where we've got smartphones and we're texting and doing things that we shouldn't be doing while we're behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Those are all things that also help reduce risk. So it really comes down to what do they want to see and what can they see, and knowing that there are solutions that are out there, that really can cover just about anything.
Yeah, I have a couple questions here that came direct message here. So let me just throw these out there. I'll read this one. Can third-party data be delivered to any of your products? For example, like a winter maintenance truck, the data that would be coming from winter maintenance.
So that winter data, it doesn't necessarily interface with us. Let me step back. Can we have an open API? Can we ingest data from another application? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
But the question really probably is better asked is, when the data is ingested into the system, where is it going to be managed and viewed? Most often is that data that says the blade is on the ground in a snow removal, or the salt spreader is turned on, or the temperature of the road, isn't necessarily something that's going to be in the camera system. That's really going to be information more of in the telematics platform itself. So you're going to be able to align up what was being viewed at the time of something else. So that's really more in line with that data being pulled in.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And another one here from our group. So can you expound on how you get to one SIM from two? We currently have a Geotab AVL. Is it possible in that environment? He says he's been thinking of video for their municipal litter basket collection. However, does incidental capture of citizens problematic in some way? Oh, privacy issues. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Privacy issues is a boy, that's a long question that could have a very long discussion about defining what privacy is. Some people will say that just by taking a picture of my face is a violation of privacy. And every country has different rules regarding the what is considered privacy versus not. Our camera systems don't ever really contain the name of the driver. We never match that, so we anonymize facial recognition. So it's a numerical sequence that is presented to the fleet, to the telematics platform, and then the way that telematics platform presents that driver ID, if you will, is matched by the fleet manager, where they put the name of that driver to that particular person. As far as public people, so people on the streets, there are safety cameras, both on closed circuit TV for security of buildings. That's a long debatable discussion about what can constitute privacy. Certainly with regards to a driver facing camera, can you record what's going on in the cab? The answer is yes. Can you disable it? The answer is yes. Can you cover the camera? Yes, but you could also be alerted that your driver is covering the camera. So there's a lot of different angles to the way that privacy. I'd rather have more of a discussion about specifics regarding that privacy. But going back to the original comment about 2 for 1. So today our camera systems we are set up with Geotab as a third-party telematics device. And so in today's integration with Geotab, which is actually evolving, and it's going to get better over time, our cameras provide latitude and longitude. They do have their own accelerometer. They have their own G sensor. They really can provide tracking functionality. And we are the only camera vendor in the Geotab marketplace that is set up as a third-party telematics device. So it's a slightly different configuration in that we take data from our camera and push that into the Geotab platform using the single SIM from the camera. And then we plot, or that Geotab takes that data and plots it on their platform. We do not capture engine data today. So if you're capturing things like diagnostic trouble codes and things of that nature, in today's environment, we are not pulling that data. The AP1 and the KP2, because they plug straight into the CAN bus of the vehicle, the first evolution of that product and the first digestion of the data from us into the Geotab platform will include things like odometer, true speed, things there's 15 standard, what we call PIDs, that we push into the Geotab platform. So we really do replace the Go device. When you look at the Geotab offering, though, with our camera performing the function of the tracker, we provide the customer with the uses that is between the base and the pro plan of the Geotab subscription. So there is more to be discussed. We actually have a brochure that explains that in greater detail. We can share.
Great. I mean, this is something that definitely there's going to be unique situations with customers, and our role is to, guide our customers to find the right solution that makes sense for their needs. So appreciate that. I think we're going to wrap it up today, Tom. I want to thank you so much for joining us as our guest presenter today, and lots of awesome content, lots of great value, educational pieces. So thank you so much. Thank you for the prize today.